And you said they're classic designs, responsibly sourced. I was watching the video on your Crowdcube site. Can you tell me a bit more about what that means?
Look, like a lot of brands, I think, and we certainly feel this very strongly, and I guess to give a bit of background to this, you look at part of the Ed Hillary story, and we continue with this foundation work in Nepal, you know, building schools and hospitals, providing education for young people, basic health care, environmental work. And we do feel strongly about the ethics of a whole lot of things that we need to do in the future to look after the environment, to look after where we live. So it's not a big leap for us when we get involved in developing a new clothing brand to think, well, what do we want that to represent? Yeah. It carries my father's name. He really stands for a lot of these things. Young people getting into the outdoors, education for poorer people in Nepal. There is a real ethical part to it. So it wasn't a really very big leap for us to go, we need to look at this for this clothing brand. We need to, you know, as much as possible, use natural fibers, make sure that it is ethically sourced. Well, I mean, what does that mean? It's, you know, I mean, obviously you want to make sure that it's not coming out of some frightful sweatshop and that people are being paid properly. I mean, yeah, obviously, sorry.
Well, like for instance, our down jackets, it's all ethically sourced goose down from Italy. So, you know, the geese aren't being harmed in the collection of that. Similarly with the jumper that Dad's actually wearing there, it's actually hand spun and hand dyed in villages in Peru and Ecuador. And so we're a company that like focuses on making sure that's all run really well. So it's all, you know, kind of following in the philosophy of Ed, I guess, you know, looking after these small communities.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're really excited by those kind of little connections.
And it's certainly something that stood out. And you also talked about stylish. Was when it came to mountain gear, was that something that Sir Edmund focused on? Was he a stylish man, or was it just practicality? Does it do the job?
He could be a reasonably smartly dressed fellow, and I think, you know, obviously in his younger years, you know, he was wearing a lot of the latest alpine gear, and that is what the Edmund Hillary clothing range is based on. Yeah. And I think a lot of it looks pretty good. And, you know, he looked good then, and it's come across pretty well. And it's new, more contemporary version of the garments. So, no, I think he'd be very pleased.
And you've talked about, and obviously it's really important to the family. I can see that the support for the causes in Nepal and around the world. So is it a percentage of the profits that are going there, as well as trying to find communities that can actually work to produce the garments? Is that how it works?
Yes, I mean, it's really on both of those areas. I mean, firstly, a percentage of funds will go to, I mean, outdoor activities, mainly for young people in the countries that we're operating, but also back into Nepal, into some of those programs, you know, that Dad started and we continue to work with and fundraise for. So that's an important part of it. But the other aspect, as you alluded to, is to make sure that, you know, we source fibers and companies to make these garments that really fits with that as well. And because the great thing about the British Mount Everest expedition, there were New Zealanders on the team, and there were obviously Nepalese climbers on the team. We would like to see a much stronger sourcing of garments. Already the merinos come from New Zealand. Most of the jackets and other things come from the UK and other European manufacturers. But we'd love to see a lot more garments coming from Nepal, and that's something we're going to work on.
And the start of that, we've already, you know, begun to move into that space. So we actually have a number of knitwear accessories that are actually being made in Nepal.
Right, cool.
Out of New Zealand merino. So we have this kind of wonderful that's kind of, you know, representative of, you know, Ed and Tenzing climbing Everest.